Shout out to Storyblocks for sponsoring this video. Hello everyone, my name is Sarah Dietschy, rhymes with Peachy. Welcome back. Today we're talking about the 16-inch M1 Max Maxbook. I almost called it a Macbook Pro. Notchbook Pro, Macbook Pro. This is basically top of the line that you can get. So we maxed out the RAM, maxed out the cores of the GPU and the CPU. This model only has 1 terabyte of SSD, but remember it's upgradable to 8 terabytes. And today what we're talking about is video editing. This is the review for you video editors. Everyone else, I covered some general use cases in my 14-inch M1 Pro video, but right now, and we're gonna also cover other use cases down the line, so make sure you're subscribed. We still have more videos coming out. Video editing, Resolve, Premiere, all the things. Right off the bat, if you use Resolve, if you use Final Cut, this will be your video editing all-encompassing laptop for the next 4 to 5 years. I'm so happy that this is in a place that I think the 2012 to 2015 MacBook Pro was, where, hey, professions, careers can be built on the back of this laptop, and it's going to be reliable. You're not going to be replacing the keyboard, hopefully, butterfly keyboard, you know? Hello all, future Sarah interjecting. Resolve got a big update for the M1 Max and M1 Pro. Other things updated like macOS and stuff, so I'm having to refilm this at a later time, but I just want to start with render times because it was actually pretty shocking to me. And yeah, let's start with that, shall we? I wanted to start with a long video because that's when you really see like, hey, can these computers go the distance? Do the fans kick on? Yes, they do kick on when they export, especially on the M1 Max. And the video I tested out was my previous video, just my cat Judy. It was like a lo-fi video where I basically put an hour and a half of music tracks and beautiful Judy 4K footage shot on my FX6 and the A7S III. So, you know, pretty good footage. At no point did I have any issues scrolling through the footage with Film Convert with a color grade on the 4K footage, which is just great because A7S 4K footage, 422 10-bit was an issue. It has been an issue for a lot of people on a lot of systems. So it's fantastic that it scrolls through on the M1 Pro and the M1 Max, but also in Premiere, which is fantastic. So let's go through these export times. So on the M1 Max, the hour and a half 4K video with color grading and music exported in 24 minutes and 11 seconds. The M1 Pro exported the same video in 45 minutes and 22 seconds, and then the 13-inch normal M1 exported that video in an hour and 59. For video creators, especially the ones who don't use Final Cut, stepping up that processor is going to help so much, as you can tell in those render times. Like literally like the M1 almost being 2 hours versus 24 minutes on the M1 Max is like shocking. That export time on the M1 Max really shocked me because then I went over to my Puget PC, which is over here. It's my big guy that I do literally all of my work on. It has a 32 core AMD processor, the latest NVIDIA graphics 30 series. So it exported in 26 minutes and 15 seconds. So the M1 Max literally exported an hour and a half video in a shorter amount of time than my fancy PC, which is just, it's crazy. So again, these export times are with the recent Resolve update. The update actually increased my render times on my Windows version of Resolve more than the Mac, but it was mainly for fusion effects with the M1 Max and M1 Pro. And we're gonna get to fusion in a second, but I bet you're wondering, well, okay, so 24-minute export with the M1 Max and Resolve, what about that same video in Premiere? Glad you asked. It's actually really easy to port over to Premiere. I just exported an XML and then put the Film Convert color grading over it, and we're off to the races. And in Premiere, it exported in 26 minutes and 6 seconds, so right behind Resolve. So the Premiere times with Apple Silicon has actually caught up. It is really great. This is in Premiere 2021. I just don't trust 2022 yet. When I first tested out Premiere on my M1 Pro 14-inch, it just like crashed multiple times, and you don't update Adobe software because you're like a beta tester. So usually stick to the previous year, or at least that's what I do. You can live your life and do what you want. Okay, so I had a project that was pretty big. It was 110 gigs of 4K footage that I had to get over to an editor pretty quick. Sometimes I work with a remote editor, and that's just sometimes too much footage if we don't have a lot of time for them to download it. So it was 110 gigs of 4K footage that I put through Adobe Media Encoder to make proxies, and it went through all of that footage and did it in only 39 minutes, which was fantastic. So I didn't want to just come here and be like, oh my gosh, everything is perfect. Well, if you're making normal videos, you're gonna have a great experience on the M1 Max in Resolve and, shockingly, Premiere, but we're still sticking with Resolve right now. So I wanted to find something to slow it down. We have to figure out what slows it down, and that's fusion effects. So like I stated before, update to the most recent Resolve because they did update it to make fusion effects faster. So they have some really actually useful effects that are just built in. So you have like the CCTV effect, you have the binoculars effect, which I tried out. And as you can see, when you just preview the effect over the clip, it's actually really quick to render and show you a preview, which is really great. I applied the binoculars clip to a clip with film convert on it, and when I pressed play, it basically played back
7 frames.
So it slows down with that. You're gonna have to press play and just wait it out for it to render, or you can do the render in place new feature in Resolve, where basically it kind of just plops in a proxy. That was like a 20-second clip that I think took a minute to render out, and then press play and it's smooth. So those fusion effects do slow down even with a maxed out M1 Max, but there are ways to render that out and you know, make it smooth. So fusion, not perfect, but hey, it's getting there. It does a great job. Some of those things even slow down my Puget PC. So, you know, I'm not expecting the entire world from this laptop, but this shows that it's not perfect, right? And a YouTube friend by the name of Patrick, he has an awesome channel that runs through Resolve. He does a lot of great Resolve tutorials. I asked him if he had any effects I could try, and he has a really cool like neon sign looking text effect, which is just super cool. And upon first applying it, it basically ran at like 6 frames per second. It was dropping a ton of frames. And then I did the Resolve update, and I got maybe like 2 more frames out of it. I think it bumped up to like 8 frames per second. But that one loaded pretty quick when I just pressed the space bar, and I basically allowed it to just play out and render. There you go. We got something that slowed down the M1 Max. So fusion is a big part of your workflow. You just have to watch out for that, but for everything else, I've been really impressed. And then just very quickly hitting on Premiere, I did edit a good amount in Premiere, and okay, it's safe to say now, guys, you are allowed to buy a MacBook Pro if you are a Premiere editor. Just the render times alone are super impressive. The fact that it's super comparable to Resolve, exporting an 1.5-hour video in 26 minutes, 4K video on a MacBook laptop is just, it's pretty awesome, right? When I was using it and playing through clips in real time, it did a really great job. Had no issues with my FX6. When I played a A7S3 clip, 10-bit 422, at full playback, when I pressed play, it did have like a 3-frame stutter, so that is still a thing. But it does a better job when you drop the playback down to like half speed, 1/4, 1/8, and it actually did a fantastic job with that. For some reason, clip thumbnails weren't loading. It was just like white, which was pretty weird. Premiere also just has no idea how to treat variable frame rate screen recordings. This is something that goes back forever. You'd think they would have fixed it by now. And so if you're still doing screen recording on a Mac using Premiere, you can't use QuickTime. Just make sure to download something like OBS, where you can record the screen recordings with a constant frame rate, like 30 frames per second, and you won't have any issues with screen recording. It's still Premiere, and there's still some bugs and things that you have to encounter and some quirks, but I think if you've been using for a while, you already understand that. You know, I've switched to Resolve, and it's almost like the issues, the crashing issues, and just the quirks are almost non-existent now, and my life is so much better. Thank you so much, Storyblocks, for sponsoring this video. Let's just take a minute and share all the great things that they got going on over there. Finding that perfect B-roll for your videos takes time and money. Storyblocks help you bring your story to life with over 1 million of royalty-free stock assets. I've had plenty of videos where I still shoot B-roll, I'm out and about having a fun time, but still, I need some help, you know, I need some help with the B-roll. So this Tesla video that I made, when I was trying to really communicate what my brain was going through, when I sold all of my Bitcoin to buy a Tesla, well, all of this B-roll from Storyblocks really came in clutch, allowed me to illustrate this story, and just added so much. So Storyblocks is amazing to supplement your B-roll, but also to just use it as your B-roll. So I recently made one of those just like long lo-fi work with me, study with me videos with my cat. If you guys ever want a cat to work with, I felt that for so much of my life, but now I actually have a cat, Judy. Okay, we're getting off track here. But that video comes to mind because I feel like you could just use so much B-roll from Storyblocks. You don't even have to shoot it. And maybe you're a musician, you can put your own music underneath. It's a great way to advertise your music, and then you don't even have to worry about shooting all the B-roll. You could just take it from Storyblocks. Another example for that specific lo-fi cool video genre, because it's so big on YouTube, and if you want to share your music, you could take a cool picture and then use their After Effects library to figure out a cool texture or animation to put over that picture and play your music underneath. There's just so many things you can do that saves you so much time. You can still get really creative with it. I love it so much. I love all of their Premiere presets as well. It's not just B-roll. People don't know that. It's not just B-roll. So the Unlimited All Access plan gives you unlimited downloads of all of the things that I just told you about. 4K stock footage, amazing plugins, assets for Premiere and After Effects, templates, music, images, sound effects, so many things. Storyblocks has affordable subscriptions if you're a creator like me, but they also have enterprise licensing for larger teams. This is such an awesome tool to help you make more videos. So if you're interested, check out my link in the description below, or you can go to storyblocks.com/SarahDietschy. That is me. So Storyblocks, thank you so much for sponsoring this video. Let's hop back into it. So I covered the whole port situation in the 14-inch video, and I am here to say I'm still just like, the smile on my face when I plug in this HDMI cable is just, it's just so huge. I love it so much. We use it a lot because, well, I like video switchers and I have a teleprompter set up, and the Mark interview, it was just so nice to just plug a computer straight in to the HDMI to my video switcher to do that interview. And it was just extremely convenient. Amazing, show-stopping, spectacular, never the same. And just a quick recap of the port situation if you've been living under a rock. We have MagSafe back. That's how you're gonna charge your MacBook. It is way stronger than the previous MagSafe. So let's hope if someone trips over your cable, it actually will disconnect because it's very strong. We have two USB-C Thunderbolt 4 on the left side, and then a headphone jack. We have HDMI on the right, another USB-C Thunderbolt 4, and then an SD card slot, yay! And I know a lot of professionals use other media, but hey, you still have 3 USB-C ports, which is very convenient. And I've been using this SD card slot so much. I shoot with V90 SD cards for the FX6s and the FX3s just for pure convenience. Sometimes I use the CF Express Type A, and a big thing is previewing your footage off of the SD cards and then figuring out, okay, this goes to that video, and then this footage goes to another video. Being able to preview that footage is huge, and a lot of times you'll be able to just press the spacebar in Finder, and that does the job for you. That is a big feature of Mac OS. However, being over in Windows land for, gosh, I don't know, like 4 to 5 years predominantly now, there's an app called Quick Look. So if you're on Windows, download Quick Look, and this basically copies that exact feature, but it previews like every file under the sun. I love the app so much. And so when I started editing on this machine, I was kind of bummed because I wasn't able to preview XAVC HS footage from the Sony a7S or my MXF files from the Sony FX6, which we're shooting on right now. Hey, .mxf, what's up? Okay, well, we had some workarounds. Thank you on Twitter. If you messaged me, a lot of people said, hey, you could download Final Cut. Sometimes this solves the problem. What about QuickTime? You can download an update, etc. But actually, when I downloaded the new Monterey 12.0.1, this solved all of my problems. So now I can preview MXF files. I can preview all of the A7S3 files, which is fantastic. So I highly recommend to make sure you're on the latest software, and this isn't going to be an issue for you anymore. Okay, so I've had quite a bit of time with the 14-inch M1 Pro and then the 16-inch M1 Max. And actually, before I move forward, because this might be the video where maybe more normals are watching who don't keep up with tech, when I say M1 Pro and M1 Max, those are the two new Apple Silicon chips that are in these MacBook Pros. So no longer do we have the Intel chips, the i7s, the i9s. We have the chips coming straight from Apple. So that means they're really streamlining their processes, and especially the Apple products like Final Cut and all that stuff, like blazing fast, the fastest that we've ever seen them. And so M1 Pro just means some less cores, less transistors in the M1 Max. So the M1 Max that we have on the 16-inch is, the best of the best. Of course, these MacBooks are a little thick. They're a little bit more chunky than we're used to. But all these upgrades that we're getting, I just feel like is so worth it. And so here you can see the screen sizes next to each other for comparison. And then let's also put this new 16-inch M1 Max MacBook right next to, a recent model of the MacBook Pro with the Intel computer. So as you can see here, there is no notch, of course, on the Intel version, but the bezels are bigger. So it's just a great screen refresh, and it's beautiful. Okay, so let's talk about battery life. The one thing that laptop manufacturers always lie about. Yeah, make sure to read the fine print. When they say just a ridiculous amount of hours, that means they're playing back 1080 local video at like 10% dimness. Don't trust it. But I will say, coming from the 13-inch M1 MacBook, man, I didn't do intense video editing on that thing, but I used it a little bit for just everyday Zoom calls and writing and all of that stuff. And I would go 2 to 3 days without even charging that thing. So I think one of the best things that we've gotten from Apple Silicon is battery life. But that's not why you're here. You're a video editor. You want to know how many hours it's going to go with like intense video editing. So this 16-inch has the 140 watt power adapter. So it's pretty big compared to the normal Apple adapter, but then if you compare it to other big PC bricks, it's actually not that huge. So 30 minutes of charging increased the battery life by 42%, which is pretty quick. So yay for fast charging, that is fantastic. And then when I was video editing in Resolve, I started working at about 11:30. I edited for a couple hours. I left my computer until about 7 p.m., then picked things back up. So we went from 100% down to 10% from 5.7 hours of constant video editing in Resolve. So that's 4K footage from the Sony FX6, that's me color grading, and then I had 5 hours of standby time when I wasn't using it in the middle of the day. So there's also about 1 hour of listening to a podcast in the background via YouTube on Chrome, so there was video going in the background. At no point did Resolve skip a beat, which was fantastic. And ironically, when I went to the battery settings, it showed that Chrome was the thing sucking up the most energy. Not Resolve, not me color grading in Resolve, but Chrome. And people might wonder, Sarah, why are you still using Chrome? Use Safari. Like, yeah, I would recommend people using Safari if you can, but I go in between so many computers, so it is so nice for me to just have everything saved in Chrome, whether it's bookmarks and plugins, my passwords and my Chrome plugins, and I use a lot of Windows devices. So from a full charge, 100 to 10, 1 day, 5.75 hours of intense video editing, 5 hours on standby, and that brought me down to 10%, which is very good. I know that might be shocking. Oh, they said 20 hours, blah, blah, blah. Guys, you can't judge that for actual real world use. For Windows computers, laptops that have really good battery life, it's typical for me to get 3 to 4 hours on battery life with video editing. And then when it comes to actually exporting that project, you actually don't get the full power of the NVIDIA graphics if your computer isn't plugged back in. So that's another advantage of this M1X, the M1 Pro. You're gonna be getting the full power from those CPU and GPU cores when you export the video, which is fantastic. Okay, future Sarah is gonna hop in here one more time. Battery life on the 14-inch M1 Pro, I was getting more like 7 to 8 hours of battery life when it was coming to like watching a ton of YouTube and Chrome and emailing and doing admin work, and then 3 to 4 hours of creative work, whether I was in Resolve or editing photos in Lightroom. I never got beyond 7 to 8 hours. So a lot of people are reporting like crazy battery life numbers, which I don't know how they're getting that. Listen, I'll take 5 to 6 hours on the 16-inch M1 Max doing a lot of creative work, and I'll take the 7 to 8 on the M1 Pro 14-inch. The only thing that it makes me nervous about is what is the 14-inch M1 Max laptop computer life like. It probably isn't that great, and I think I'm gonna also buy that one in addition to just see if that's my SKU, and of course I'll make another video about it. But yeah, the crazy battery life of Apple Silicon, that's more of like the M1, the normal M1. Man, that battery life was so good. But I just wanted to communicate my real world battery life because it's definitely different than what everyone else is saying. I use the 16-inch M1 Max a ton, but I've been using Windows laptops for so long that the 16-inch trackpad is actually way too big for me. So because of this, I was actually using my, this is the exact one, but my more portable Logitech Bluetooth mouse with it. And there was no Bluetooth issues like a lot of the M1 computers had, which is fantastic. But I found myself using my mouse more. So I think I might consider an M1 Max 14-inch just because I like the smaller trackpad, which I didn't really expect. Hey guys, thank you so much for joining me on this video. I know it was a little hectic and I wish I could have made it more pretty, but I wanted to make sure I was just communicating useful information to you on this video, and then future ones are a little bit more vibey and cool. I think I just wanted to like blurt out all of my thoughts, made sure everything was updated and accurate information, and then yeah, also like tech season September, October. And then at the end of that, like interviewing Mark Zuckerberg and me just having like a brain fart after that. Just thanks for the patience on the videos. And now I'm getting back into the swing of things. So let me know if you like this video. Hit the subscribe button down below for new videos every single week. Check out my Storyblocks link in the description below and peachymerch.com for these beautiful Peachy Pods AirPod cases. Oh my gosh, so beautiful. And until next time, guys, stay peachy, stay peachy. Okay, bye.